this one import mode. Yesterday I told. Just tell me, Sanjay.
Sir, in import mode, we have the import the data wholly and we store it. But in direct query, we pick some live data, means selected data,
Mm-hmm.
and it,
Then what is
and
the difference
power.
between what is the difference between direct query, live query? Live connection we are used, we saw, right? There's one live
Yeah,
connection and one.
Power BI data set. These are the live connection.
Okay. Sanjay, sorry, Madhu, can you tell me?
Yeah,
Yeah,
this
can you?
nothing but direct query, nothing but we are getting the data from database.
Okay.
A live connection means SSAS tabular and Power BI database. We are connecting that we are getting the data from the live connection, and we have.
Mm-hmm. Akil?
Yeah, so in import mode, we need so we collect the data from the data source and we store in Power BI.
Mm-hmm.
And coming to direct query, for every time we need data. The In direct query, the Power BI goes to the source file every time, not uh,
Mm-hmm.
for data collection.
Mm-hmm.
And coming to live connection, it comes under only SSAS tabular cube and Power BI dataset. Actually, the direct query and live connection both are same, but live connection it works under only some data connectors, or
Mm-hmm.
like SSAS tabular cube and Power BI dataset.
Okay. So see, everybody knows everything, okay? Like Akil also knows everything, like Madhu also knows, and Sanjay also knows. Everybody knows everything. But the main thing, what everybody has to focus on, you should be able to explain your thoughts clearly to the person. To, like for example, interviewer will going to ask you the same question, right? And
Yes.
if you are not able to explain the things clearly in front of the interviewer, he will not be able to judge you whether you really knows the thing or not, right?
Yes. Yes.
Because whatever you will going to say, on that only he will going to judge you. If you will know everything but you are not able to explain, then he will not be able to select you, right? Because he think like you don't know, but you know the thing, right? So the
Yes.
main thing is you should be able to explain your things clearly. For example, if someone will ask you what are the different connectivity modes, okay, if he will going to ask you different connectivity mode, if you know the difference between those connectivity mode also, try to explain in terms of different connectivity mode as well by taking an example, okay? So if you are going for any interview, if you are giving more and more example for explaining your thoughts, then what will happen, they will think like, okay, this guy knows better, that's why he is taking an example, okay? if
Okay.
you if you're not taking even an example, that is fine, but whatever the thing you are explaining, that should be crystal clear, okay? For example, in import mode, what will happen, the data will be copied from the source location. It might be a file system, it might be a database, like that, and it will be copied inside the Power BI file. And whenever we are showing anything on the visualization part at the report area, then what will happen, instead of getting the data directly from the source, it will going to get the data directly in the file itself, because the data is stored in the file itself, that is in the import mode. Coming to this one, direct query. In direct query mode, the data will going to fetch at the runtime from the source, and the same thing will going to happen in the live query as well. But only the difference between direct query and live query is it depends on the source. For example, if you are connecting with a SQL Server data warehouse, if you are connecting with Oracle database, all are supporting direct query, not the live connection. But if you are going to connect with a SSAS tabular cube, or if you are connecting with a Power BI data set, that kind of data sources are supported live connection. But ultimately, in both the connection, we will going to get our data at the runtime whenever it is required. Now coming to performance. So the performance wise, import mode is better in terms of performance as compared to direct query and live connection is, the reason behind is the data is already present inside the file. The Power BI has not to get the data from the source whenever we are using import mode. But in case of live connection and direct query, the data is not present inside the file. So at the runtime, whenever we are pulling the data, for showing that particular data in the report, at that time only Power BI will going to get the data, or it will going to fetch the data from the source, and after getting the data only it will try to show that data. So it might take longer time as compared to the import mode. So now coming to performance wise, this one is better, import mode. So like that you have to explain your things. Okay,
Okay.
Okay.
so it might take some, see, the main thing I'm telling you, if you want to crack an interview, the main thing is you should have to like invest, like for example, interview will be scheduled for half an hour or 1 hour, right?
Yes.
Okay.
If you will kill the time of an interviewer, for example, if you will answer this particular topic, okay, for around 3 minutes or 4 minutes, so what will happen in that 1 hour interview, 3 and 4 minutes wasted, right?
Yes.
So the ultimate motto of your interview is to kill that interviewer time. If you will kill that interviewer time in explaining your thing itself, definitely he will not going to ask you much more question, right?
Yes.
So the
Yeah.
chances of getting selected in that interview will be more.
True.
Are you
True.
getting?
Yes.
So
Yes.
try to explain the things in detail. If you know that particular topic, then try to explain in that particular topic in detail. Might be it will take 5 minutes, might be it will take 10 minutes, but try to explain. Okay. Until
Okay.
and unless if that interviewer is telling, okay, stop it, we'll go to another question, like that. Okay.
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 But don't say blah blah blah, don't say like that. If you know the things, then only just try to say, okay, continuously. Otherwise don't make anything in that particular word. Okay, sometimes
Okay.
what people are going to do, they will mix many topics, okay, without knowing the things. Also they'll say that is the bad, that makes bad impression on the interviewer. Okay,
Okay.
Okay.
because he's an interviewer, he knows much better than you, that's why he's in that position, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So don't say blah blah. If you know the things, just say I know the thing and this is the answer. If you don't know, just say I don't know.
Okay.
Okay.
Don't waste interviewer time in saying blah blah. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Is it clear, Sanjay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now coming to next step. Okay. So yesterday I forgot to tell you one thing. Okay. So we were discussing about this import, direct, and live connection, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So what will happen if we are using a direct query? Let's suppose I am using a table in direct query. Okay.
Okay.
Then this particular direct query connection we can change into import mode. Okay,
Okay.
if we are using a particular table in this direct query mode, okay,
Okay.
then that particular direct query we can convert into import mode.
Okay.
But if you are using import mode, you cannot convert into direct query.
Okay.
Okay.
Are you getting direct? So this is sometimes interviewer will going to ask you, so if you are using a direct query, so can you convert that particular direct query into import mode? Is it possible? Then you have to say yes, it is possible. But if you are using import mode, then you can't make that import mode into direct connection. It is not possible.
Okay.
Okay.
If you really want to create this import mode into direct connection, then again you have to load the data. Okay, you have to again take a new connection for direct query, but you can't change the existing connection. Okay, you can't change.
Okay.
Is it clear?
Yes.
So this was the concept which I forgot to mention yesterday, so I thought to tell you. Okay.
Hello.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. Your voice was breaking.
am I audible?
Now it's audible.
Yeah.
Okay, now yesterday I told you, right, we have to connect our this Power BI with the SQL server, right?
Yes.
So now today we're going to see how we can connect the data with the SQL server. So with the SQL server, what we need here is database name we will need. We will need the SQL server details, right?
Yes.
So now
Yes.
I will open my SQL Server. So I will try to get the SQL Server details, and after that I'll going to put it. So let me get my SQL Server details. So in every case, there will be other SQL Server in your project where you will going to work. There might be different server. Okay, so the name will not be always same. It will be like changing as per other SQL Server. Okay.
Okay.
So I'm using MySQL Server. Let me open MySQL Server, and I will try to get that name of the SQL Server. Okay.
Okay.
It's opening. Okay. Now here I'll going to connect with MySQL Server. Let me connect database, and in this database, MySQL Server name is okay. So this is my SQL Server name. Are you able to see?
Yes.
Yes.
This is my SQL Server name. Okay. So in this SQL Server, I'll connect this. Now this SQL Server, it will going to connect. Now in the left side, you can see the SQL Server got connected in the left side. Okay.
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 And in this SQL Server, there will be multiple databases. Okay. So I will expand this database. So currently there is only one database. And what is the name of the database?
Demo.
Demo
Demo database. Okay. Right now there is one database. If you want to create, you can create your own database as well. Okay.
Okay.
Right
Okay.
click on the database, and here you can see new database, right?
Yes.
You
Yeah.
can create a new database, but currently in my SQL Server, there is only one database. The name of the database is demo
Demo
database. Now in this demo database, here you can see tables are there. If I'll expand this table, these are my tables. Okay.
Okay.
And every table is having some data. Okay. Let me show you. For example, I will run employee data, dbo.employee data. Okay. I will run this particular table. This particular employee data table will have some detail. Let me check. Okay. So in this particular employee table, there are three data, right? Three rows are there. 1, 2, 3. You can see here.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
the same data we will going to load from this particular SQL Server. Okay. And the
Okay.
table name is employee data. Okay.
Okay.
So from this table employee data, we will try to load the data into our Power BI file. So we already know my SQL Server detail. So I'll go to Power BI. Here I will going to put my server name. Okay.
Okay.
After putting server name here, as I mentioned, like this database is optional, right?
Yes.
Yes.
If you know, then you can put it. If you don't know, let it be. Okay. For example, I don't know. Let's assume I don't know the database name. Okay. So
Okay.
import mode you already know. Now I'll going to use this direct query. Import mode you already know. Okay. So I will select this direct query and I will click on OK. Now my Power BI will going to connect with that particular SQL Server. And here it is asking, okay. Here it is asking what is the username and password, how you want to connect. Are you using any Microsoft account or any database credential or any Windows account? Okay. So I will say like, okay, you can use my Windows credential, okay, for connecting with that particular SQL Server. Now it will try to connect with my Power BI will try to connect with that particular SQL server. Now here it is connected, and in the left hand side you can see demo database, right?
Yeah.
Now it is showing one database because in my SQL server there is only one database. Now if you will expand this particular database, you are able to see all the tables here. Are you able to see all the tables?
Yes.
Yes.
Now, if I'll select this employee data, you can see the same data, right? What we saw in that SQL Server table,
Yes. Yes.
the same data. Now, if you want to get this data, select this particular table, okay? After selecting, click on load. Now, it will try to get that particular information of the table, but it will not try to get the data, okay?
Okay.
Now, you can see here what it is telling, like, it is showing some message, right? Potential security risk, right?
Yes.
Why it is showing like this is because we are already having a data source, right? That is Excel in this file, right? Last time
Yeah.
we have loaded the data from the Excel. So it is
Yes.
telling like right now we are trying to load the data from a other source, that is SQL Server. And previously we have used another source, that was Excel. So it might be a risk. Okay, it is telling like it might be a risk because you are loading the data from multiple sources. Okay, if you will say okay, I am agree with that risk, there is no risk, so there is no problem. Click on OK because it is trying to get the data from multiple sources. Okay,
Okay.
now this particular employee data, the table will going to see here. You are able to see this employee data. Are you able to see?
Yes.
And now I am putting my mouse over this employee data. What's the storage mode?
Direct query.
Direct query showing right here.
Yes.
Yes.
Now this particular table is in a direct query. Now I will going to put this particular data into one table. I will take table visualization, and in this table visualization I will going to add the data from this employee data table. Let me add employee name. I'll going to add employee name. I will going to add salary. So now whatever I'm going to add, it is trying to get directly from the SQL server. Okay, it is trying to get directly from the SQL server.
Okay.
Okay.
And now, so right now we are in the report area, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Coming to data area, I will come to data area.
Okay.
Now this table right now I have selected fact sales. Fact sales was created based on the Excel file, right? And it is in the import mode. So you are able to see the data here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now coming to this employee data. See, are you able to see the data?
No.
No.
What is the message here?
This table uses direct query and
And
cannot
cannot
be
be
shown.
shown. So what will happen? As I mentioned you, the data will not going to store in Power BI, right?
Yes.
If you are using direct query, so the data is not stored in this particular Power BI desktop. That's why Power BI will not going to show you the data here. Okay,
Okay.
Okay.
that is the reason. If you are using a import mode, you will be able to see your data like this. If I'll click on dim customer, you are able to see the data because it is in import mode. But if you will go to employee data, it will not going to show because it is using direct query. Okay,
Okay.
Okay.
and right now we have used import mode and direct query in this particular file, both the modes, right?
Yes.
So now which type of model it is?
It's wait. I know. I know this. I know this. I know. Composite model.
Right, now we have used direct query and is import mode, both the modes in the same file. So now this particular model is known as composite model. Okay,
Okay.
and here in the bottom you can see storage mode is
Mixed.
mixed, means we have used more than one type of connectivity mode. That's why it is showing here storage mode mixed. Okay,
Okay.
Okay.
if you have used only one connection, either like import or direct query, then it will going to show direct query or import. But now we have used two connection. That's why what happened, it is showing here storage mode mixed. Okay,
Yes.
Okay.
now I told you like we can convert the direct query into import mode, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So now we will try to see how we can convert direct query into import mode. Okay, so
Okay.
what I'm going to do, I have to convert this particular employee data into this import mode, right?
Sorry.
Because this employee data is using direct query, I want to change direct query to import mode. Okay,
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
so for doing that, what we have to do, we have to come to my model section. Okay, the data modeling section here.
Yes.
Okay.
Now
Okay.
coming to this particular data modeling section, you have to select the table on which you have to change the mode. So what is my table name? Employee
Employee
data, right?
Yes. Yes.
I will select my table employee data. Okay.
Okay.
After selecting this table, here are you able to see these properties here?
Yes.
Yes.
So expand this property. Okay, expand this property. Now if you will expand this property, here in the bottom you will find one option, advanced.
Okay.
Yes.
Click on this advanced. And here, what is the storage mode?
Direct query.
Direct query. Click on the direct query and click on import. Once you will click on import, what will happen? It is telling like it is trying to change from, you can see here, setting storage mode to import is an irreversible operation. It means like if you will change into import mode, you cannot be able to switch back to direct query. Are you able to see this message?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes.
It means like once we will change from direct query to import mode, we will not be able to go back again to the direct query. So it is giving a warning, okay, here.
Okay.
Okay.
After that, if you want, then you can click on OK. So what will happen if you will click on OK? Now this Power BI will again going to connect with the source. Now you see it is loading the data.
Yes.
Now the data is loaded. And now if I'll come here into my report area, let me come here in my report area. Okay, now if I'll put my mouse over employee data, what is the message? In storage mode?
Import.
Import.
Import. Now this particular storage mode is changed for direct query to import mode, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Now coming to this data area. Now you are able to see the data as well, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So there is one more difference. If you are using a direct query, then you will not be able to see the data what is present inside your table in this data mode, in this particular data pane. Okay.
Okay.
So this is also one of the difference. That's what I want to show you. Okay.
Yes.
Is it clear now how you can change your direct query to import mode?
Yeah.
Yes.
Any questions, Sanjay? Is it clear, Sanjay? I think Sanjay is
Yes, sir.
sleeping.
Yes, sir. Because sir, little bit network issue, you know that. Sometimes I'm not able to.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. So this topic is clear, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes.
Okay. Now we will start our DAX topic, and I will tell you if you will connect with any Power BI developer. Okay, 99% of the Power BI developers are having a fear because of DAX.
Okay.
They are
Yeah.
thinking like DAX is the toughest part. DAX is the toughest part in Power BI. Okay.
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 But I am telling you, it is a very easy part. If you know the concept, it is very easy.
Okay.
But if you don't know the concept, it will like you will not be able to understand. Okay, I can damn sure you will not be going to understand if you will not be able to understand the very basic concept that I'll going to explain you. So try to more focus on the concept which I will going to explain you now. Okay.
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 Okay, so now I will going to start the DAX, and you will going to take more and more interest if you want. Okay.
Mhm.
Now for understanding the DAX, so first thing we should have to know how the DAX works. Okay. For example, let me open this particular table. This is my table, right?
Yes.
Yes.
These are my tables. Okay, let's suppose this is my table. Okay. Now what I want is this particular amount column we have calculated like while loading the data itself, right?
Yes.
By multiplying rate into quantity, we have loaded the data at that time only, right?
Yes.
Okay.
What? Okay. You remember we have loaded this fact sales from the Excel file, right?
Yes.
So what we
Yes.
did, we have calculated this amount that is nothing but rate into quantity is equals to amount. So this we have
Yes.
calculated in the file itself manually, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And after that directly we have loaded. Let's assume, let me delete this particular column, okay?
Okay.
And I will try to calculate the same kind of amount column using DAX, okay?
Okay.
And before like creating that DAX, I will going to tell you what is DAX. So do you know what is the full form of DAX?
No.
No.
So DAX stands for data, D stands for data, okay?
Okay.
A stands for analysis, and E stands for expressions. Okay.
Okay.
So DAX stands for data analysis expression. Okay.
Okay.
So do you know in Excel, if you want to add, for example, in Excel, we are having 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Okay. So these are the three values. Now, if you want to add these three values, then what I'm going to write here is equals to sign. I will select this one. So this is the position of this one. What is the position? G5, right?
Yes.
So from here, the position of 1 is G5 plus G6 plus G7 is equals to.
6.
So what we are doing here in Excel, we are writing this formula, right? We are adding the cells to get the sum of this 3-digit, right?
Yeah.
So this is one formula where we are adding all the values. The other thing is what we can do if you want to add these values, you can write is equals to sign here in Excel and you can use sum. And inside this sum, if you can select all these three cells and if you'll close it, it will also give you the same value, right?
Yes.
Do you know this sum function here?
Yeah, I'm not
Yeah.
that much. So
Okay, so in Excel, you can write this kind of formula. Okay, so
Yeah.
this kind of formula is also present as part of Power BI because Power BI is came from Excel only. Okay,
okay.
Power
Okay.
BI is the advanced part of Excel. It's the advanced part. So what will happen in Excel? We can write this kind of formula. Okay, so like that, we can write this kind of formula in Power BI as well. Okay. So in Power BI, this kind of formula is known as DAX.
Oh.
Are
Okay.
you getting now? In
Yes.
Power BI, this formula, this kind of formula is known as DAX, data analysis expression. Okay.
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 And using that only we can put analytics. For example, if you want to compare the last year sales with the current year, and if you want to know whether there is a profit or loss, or like what was the total sales amount in last 2 years or last 3 years, so any kind of analytics which you want to put over your raw data, that you can provide using DAX only. Okay. You
Okay.
have to write DAX. DAX is nothing but a kind of code or the formula you have to write to solve that particular scenario, and based on that only you will going to get your desired result. Okay.
Okay.
Now are you getting what is DAX?
Yes.
So DAX
Yes.
is nothing but a kind of formula you will going to write. Okay, and based on the formula it will going to give you the result. Okay.
Mhm.
Now, what here in this particular Power BI file, what we have to write the DAX? We have to write the DAX for multiplying rate into quantity, right? To get the
Yes.
final sales amount.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
So here, what we have to do, we have to create a new column, right? Because we have deleted the existing column. So for creating the new column, there's a button here, new column, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So click on this new column button. Now, once you'll click on this new column button, now you can see there's a new column created, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is it showing any value?
No.
No.
No. Why? Because we have not written the DAX yet. Okay.
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 So for writing your DAX, here you can see this is one formula bar. This is known as formula bar, this white space.
Okay.
Okay.
In this formula bar only, we will going to write our DAX. Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Now here, what it is telling is, first we have to write the name of the column because we are creating a new column, right? So
Yes.
some name we have to give to this particular column. So I want to give the name as sales amount. Okay.
Okay.
So this is the name of my new column. Okay.
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 And after is equals to sign, you have to write that particular DAX. So what is my DAX?
Rate
Rate into
into
quantity, right?
quantity. Yes.
So I will write rate. Now here you can see what is this? Tell me. I have written rate. It is coming like this. What is this?
Factuals rate. So we
So
are
it is
using
telling like, yeah,
we
it
are
is
using
telling like,
factual.
so this particular rate column, it is present in this particular table. Okay, fact sales.
Yes.
So what will happen every time you will, if you are trying to select a particular column, then you will get the table name as well. Like this particular column is present in which table. Okay, might be the same name of the column rate is present in 5 table. Okay, then how you will going to identify like this particular rate is from A table or B table or C table? That's why whenever you will going to pick a column from a table, it will also going to give you the name of the table. Okay,
Okay.
after that what we have to do, we have to multiply rate into quantity, right?
Yes.
So I will write into sign and here I will take quantity. Now if you, so this particular DAX is completed and I will put enter. Now see, it is showing me the value, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So 35,000 into 1, 35,000, 15,000 into 1, 15,000, 500 into 10, 5,000, right?
Yes. Yes.
So it is multiplying correctly, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
So what we did, we have written our first DAX. This is my first DAX.
Okay.
It is very simple, right?
Yes. Yes.
Right now it is very simple because we are in the initial stage, okay? But
Yeah.
going forward, it will like you have to understand each and every concept because we will going to do lot of things in DAX, okay?
Can we
Right
Okay.
now, we have not used any function. We are just calling the column name and we are just multiplying the column, okay?
Okay.
Can we get
So
all these DAX formulas in browsers or any other websites?
yeah, Microsoft documentation is there. You can go and check it there.
Okay.
For example, let me show you. Let me open one web browser.
My friend told me about W3 schools and some website is there. There we
Mhm.
will get some formulas. We can just copy and paste it
Don't
up.
worry. I will going to give you DAX formula book. I will give you all those materials. Don't worry for that.
Wow. Super. Thank you.
Yeah. I'll go. I have not given you those materials. I'll give you. So here you can see this is Microsoft documentation. Okay. So you can see all the DAX function, whatever it is present. So here this calendar is one function. You can click on calendar and you will going to find all the details, how this calendar is working. For example, what are the examples? Everything you will get here in Microsoft documentation.
So what we need to paste in copy for the tax formula table bar here?
Everything, every detail, everything will going to get this detail from the Microsoft documentation itself. Okay, it's a Microsoft official website.
Okay. Okay.
So don't worry for that. Anyways, I'll going to give you the best course for Power BI DAX. Okay,
Okay.
so don't worry for that. Okay.
Yeah.
So now let's go on. So here we have to understand one concept. Okay. So the first concept here is what we have done. We have written the column and we have written the another column. Two columns we wrote, right?
Yes.
And did we, so in Power BI for calculating these values, what we have done? We have added the address of the particular cell, right? So this
Yes.
particular cell address is G5, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
This particular cell address is G6. So what we are telling? We are telling the address of this particular cell, right?
Yes.
Yes.
But in Power BI, what we are doing? Are we giving the cell address here?
No.
No.
We are not giving the cell address. What we are giving? We are telling the column
Column
name, right?
names. Yes. Yes.
Now, tell me how my Power BI will going to know, like I have to multiply this rate into this quantity only. Why not this rate into this quantity here? How it will going to know I have to multiply this rate into this quantity only for this?
We
It
We
can
are
first
multiply
giving
we
the
this
first
into this into
mentioned
this, right?
like we first mentioned
mention the
facts
column
earlier.
name, rate, and quantity.
No. My question is, so right now what is happening? This particular sales amount, 35,000, it is multiplied rate into quantity and it is showing here, right?
Yes.
Yes.
It might be for this particular calculation of this particular cell, it will going to multiply this into this and it will going to store here. It might be, right? But it is not happening. What it is happening is this particular formula, it is calculated for this and this and it is showing here. It has calculated this and this, and it is showing here. It has
Yes.
calculated this and this, it is showing here, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So what will happen right now? What we have created, calculated column. New column is nothing but calculated column. Okay.
Okay.
So now in this particular new calculated column, what we have done, we have written a DAX, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
this particular DAX, we have not told like you have to multiply this into this and you have to store. What it is doing is it will going to work row by row. Okay, if you are creating a calculated column, so whatever the DAX you will going to write, it will going to work row by row. So what it will going to do, this particular formula, this particular DAX, it will come for the first row. Okay, only for the first row it will come.
Okay.
And what it will going to do, in the first row it will going to multiply rate into quantity. Okay,
Okay.
and it will going to store here. Once this first row will be completed, then only it will go to second row,
Okay.
Okay.
and then it will going to multiply this rate into quantity. It will going to store. Once this second row will be completed, then it will go with the third row. Like that, it will go with the fourth row, fifth row, sixth row, seventh row, eighth row. Are you getting?
Okay. Yes. Yes.
So what will happen? This particular formula, it will going to iterate. Iterate means going from one row to another row. So it will going to iterate row by row, right?
Yes.
And the
Yes.
formula is going to evaluate for a row at the one time. At a one time, it will going to evaluate for a particular row, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So this is known as row context. What it is known as?
Row
Row context.
Row context means if the formula, if it will going to evaluate row by row, okay, one by one, if it will going to evaluate, so at the time of evaluation on a particular row, this formula is not able to see other rows. Okay,
Okay.
this formula don't know if any other rows are there or not. First it will try to evaluate for the first row. At that time it will not going to check any other rows are there or not. Okay, and it will going to evaluate under row context. And row context is nothing but it is trying to give you the details of that particular row in which that particular formula is trying to calculate. Okay,
Okay.
so
Okay.
in calculated column, so right now we have created a new column, and this new column is nothing but calculated column. Okay,
Okay.
Okay.
so what will happen in calculated column, the formula, the DAX formula, whatever you will going to write, it will work under which context?
Row by row.
Which context?
Row context.
Yes, in DAX, if you're going to write a DAX in this particular calculated column, so that particular DAX, it will going to work row by row. So it will going to work in row context. So this particular DAX, it will going to calculate row by row, and it will going to store the data into the new calculated column, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So now is it clear what is row context?
Yes.
Any
Yes.
doubt here? What is row context?
No.
What about you, Madhu, Sanjay?
No. No.
Okay, so this is
No,
coming.
sir.
Okay, so this is coming as row context. Okay, the formula will going to calculate for each and every row one by one. Okay, so this is row iteration, and in this row iteration, it will going to calculate for each row. That's why in calculated column, whatever the DAX you will going to write, it will work under row context. Okay.
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 So in interview, they'll going to ask you, sometimes interviewer will going to ask you, what do you mean by row context? So row context is nothing but in if a particular DAX, if it will going to iterate row by row for calculating the values of that particular row at that time, then that particular context is known as row context. Okay.
Okay.
Is it clear now?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
So now what we have done, we have created a calculated column, right?
Yes.
So now in interview, there is a very important question which every interviewer will going to ask you. And the question is, what is the difference between calculated column? What is the difference between calculated column and measure? Okay.
Major.
Measure. Okay. So this is a very important interview question. So every interviewer will going to ask you what is the difference. Okay. So now first we will going to see what is a calculated column. And once this calculated column will done, then we will move to measure. Okay.
Okay.
So now here calculated column is working under which context?
Row
Row
context.
Row context, right? And here what happened? Whatever the DAX we have written here as part of this new column. So after calculating this value, it is showing here, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So this particular calculation is done because it has stored the data into the memory, right?
Yes.
That's why you are able to see the data here. The final calculation you are able to see here, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So what will happen if you are creating a calculated column? So it will going to occupy, it will occupy memory space. Okay.
Okay.
What will happen whenever you are creating this calculated column, it will going to calculate the final result, and this particular final result, it will going to store inside the Power BI file. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So it will consume some space. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if the data will be very big, for example, if 1 million rows are there, 2 million rows are there, so this particular data will be stored for 1 million, 2 million records, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So it will going to consume more space. Okay.
Yes.
So this is the second difference. Okay.
Okay.
After that, here, this is good for the performance perspective. Okay. Because
Yeah.
for example, if you will going to get, so it is like the same thing, it is like a direct query and import. Okay. For example, so it is like a import only because the jar is near you, means the
Yes.
calculation is already done, right? This calculation is already done, so we can directly use this final value, right?
Yes.
We don't have to calculate rate into quantity because we have already calculated it, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you will use this particular column, so what it will going to do, like a good performance, because the data is already calculated, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So what will happen? It will going to give good performance, right?
Yes.
Good performance in the sense like, because the data is already calculated.
Yes.
Hence, like the final calculation is already done. The final calculation is already done. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
But it will going to give you bad performance when the data will be very used. For example, as I mentioned you, whatever the DAX you will going to write, it will going to iterate row by row, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
If 1 million rows are there, then how many times it will going to iterate?
1 million times.
1 million. If 5 million are there, if 100 million are there, then 5 million, 100 million rows it will going to iterate, right?
Yes. Yes.
So what will happen? It will going to give you low performance. Okay. In terms of calculating this final result, in terms of,
Okay.
once the result will be calculated, after that, this particular result, if you are going to use into your Power BI report, that one will give you good performance. Okay. But at the time of calculating this particular column itself, if the data will be used, it will going to take lot of time, as depends on the size of the data, size of the rows. Okay.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And how much complicated that particular call calculation is, that also matters. Okay.
Okay.
So in real time, we are trying to avoid using this calculated column. Okay. Because
Okay.
main thing is it will going to consume more and more space. If the data will be used, it will going to occupy lot of space. That's why in real time scenario, if possible, try to avoid using this calculated column.
Okay.
Is it clear till here?
Yes.
Can you come back,
Now,
please? Can you come back?
so what I'm telling is, as I mentioned, like this particular calculated column, whatever the final result it will going to calculate, it will try to, Power BI will try to store this particular calculated values in Power BI, this one, in this Power BI file itself, right?
Yes.
So what will happen if you are dealing with a very bulk data, very used data? So this particular calculation will try to happen for bulk data. So what will happen as it will going to work row by row? So the performance will get slower, right? In calculating
Yes.
all those values because the data is very used and it has to calculate for each and every row like one by one, right?
Yes.
So, so that's why what we used to do, we used to avoid using this calculated column in most of the scenarios, okay? Until and unless if it is really not important, okay? If it is not important, then we will try to avoid this calculated column. If it is really important without creating this calculated column, if you are not able to do that work, for example, then only you have to create calculated column. Otherwise, in real time, we are trying to avoid calculated column. The main reason is it will going to consume more space into your file.
Yes.
Is it
Yeah.
clear now what is calculated column?
Yes.
Sanjay,
Yes, sir.
is it clear?
Yes.
So now if I'm telling like if it is not if you are trying to like ignore this calculated column, then what is the other option? Because we have to do some analytics, right? So the other option is this measure.
Okay.
So instead of using calculated column, we are trying to use measure mode. Okay.
Okay.
That why we are using this particular measure is in this measure, what will happen? This particular measure, it will not going to store the final result. For example, if I want to do the calculation, okay. If I want to do the same calculation, rate into quantity, right now we have created a calculated column, right?
Yes.
Yes.
And this particular calculated column, after calculating, it has stored the final result into the memory of the Power BI file, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So what will happen might be after calculating this particular result, we are not using in our report, right? For example, so what will happen? This is unnecessarily wastage of the memory, right?
Yes.
Yes.
If you are not using after, for example, you are paying me, right? You are paying me for this particular Power BI course, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
If you have paid me, but you are not concentrating on the topics whatever I am covering, if you are not putting labor hard, so is there any use of paying?
No.
No.
No, right? But what will happen if you are interested to learn as well, and if you will pay then only, then what will happen? It will be better, right? You are
Yes.
paying because you want to learn.
Yeah.
The same thing will happen if you have created this particular sales amount. Okay, you have already paid, this is nothing but you have already paid this particular, okay, so that's what it is there. So this sales amount is there, but if you will not going to use this particular column in your report, then what will happen? There is no use, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But what will happen if you are using a calculated column? Automatically, once the calculation will be done, it will try to create the final result and it will going to store into the memory, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So to avoid this, we are having a concept of measure, okay?
Okay.
So what will happen in measure, if you are writing the formula to create this particular this particular formula, like the same formula sales amount using measure, so what will happen? The measure will not going to calculate this particular result and it will not going to store into the memory, okay?
Okay.
What will happen if you are creating a measure, then that particular measure, it will going to store, it will not going to store the value. Whenever you are calling that measure into your report, whenever you are adding that particular measure in your report, at that particular instant only it will try to calculate it, okay, at that particular instant. Whenever you are using, for example, when right now what happened, you have paid me before joining this class, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So what happened? You have paid me before, but here what will happen? Here after starting this particular batch only you have to pay, okay, as per this measure. For example, whenever you are required, whenever you want to learn, at that time you only you will going to pay, okay?
Okay.
You will not going to pay in advance. In this particular measure case, it will not going to calculate in advance. It will not going to calculate in advance. Whenever it is required, at that time only it will going to calculate. Are you getting?
Yes.
Yes.
Right now, this particular sales amount, it is calculated in advance, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But in case of measure, it will not going to calculate in advance. Whenever we require that particular calculation in the report, at that time itself, it will going to calculate at that time.
Okay.
Okay.
Are you getting the difference?
Yes.
Yes.
Now coming to now I will going to do the same kind of calculation like this sales amount in using measure. Right now we have created a calculated column, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, instead of creating a calculated column, we will try to calculate the same value, but using measure, okay, not using calculated column. So now
Okay.
let me get the data from that particular table. So I will get some data. Let me put some data. For example, I will take some customer name. And after putting customer name, I will get some quantity. I will get some rate and I will get some bill number also. Okay,
Okay.
so this now I'll going to put this bill number on top. Now this is my data, right?
Yes.
Yes.
And this data we are showing as part of our this one. Let me increase the size so it will be more visible to you guys. So are you guys enjoying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or you are getting bored?
No. No.
No.
Okay, let me increase the size of this one as well. Okay. So now here we are able to see the bill number, customer, quantity, and rate, right?
Yes.
And now what? Let me just a minute. So do not summarize, and this one I'll also make it do not summarize. Okay. So now we are able to see the quantity and rate, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So now we will try to create a measure and we will try to multiply this quantity into rate. Okay.
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 So what I'll right click on this particular table to create a measure, okay? For example, and here in the top you are able to see the new measure option. Once I'll click on this new measure option, you will going to get the same formula bar, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And here what we have to write?
Column name.
Not column name. Now the measure name we have to write.
Which
So
name?
I'm writing the name of my measure. Okay.
Okay. Measure name. Okay.
So this is my measure name. What is the measure name? Sales amount new, right?
Yes.
After that, if you want to calculate the quantity into rate using measure, so for that you have to use a function, and that particular function is sumx. Okay. Here, if you will try to write quantity into rate, okay,
Hmm.
Okay.
then it will not going to work in measure. Okay.
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 Directly you can't write a column name. Just try to understand. In calculated column, we have written quantity into rate directly, right?
Yes.
But
Yes.
in case of measure, you can't write directly quantity into rate because the difference is measure by default, it will not going to work under row context.
Yes.
Okay.
So here, as I mentioned, calculated column is working under row context, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So measure will not going to work under row context by default. By default, measure will not going to work under row context like calculated column. Okay.
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 So here measure will by default it will going to work under filter context.
Oh.
Okay. So by default measure will going to work under filter context. But what we can do, we can add this like we can add row context in this measure also. Okay.
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 We can add row context in this measure also. So for creating the row context, there are some special functions, okay? And those functions are having the x in the name. Okay, for example, there is a function sum, okay,
Okay.
and there is a function sum x. So
Okay.
now in this sum x, you are able to see this x, right?
Yes.
So this function will going to work under row context.
Oh.
Where there is x, those functions are working under row context. Okay.
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 Otherwise, if you will use sum, it is working in the filter context. Okay, it will not going to work under row context. Now if you will use mean x, minimum x, mean means minimum and x means it will going to iterate row by row. Mean x, max x, count x, concatenate x. So wherever you will going to find x in the name of a particular function, so all those functions will be working under which context?
Row context.
Okay, wherever you will going to find this x, it will going to work under row context. Okay,
Okay.
so here for calculating this particular expression, what we have to do, we have to write our formula to calculate this particular value under row context. So there is a function that is known as sum x. So what it will going to do, sum x, in sum x we will going to multiply quantity into rate, right? So
Yeah.
after calculating quantity into rate, whatever the amount will come for all the customers, we want to add the final output as well, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So we want to sum all the values. The final result after multiplying quantity into rate, we will going to get, okay, this is the final like amount for this particular customer Puja. So after getting that particular final amount for every customer, we will going to add that particular value to get the grand total, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
here we will going to use sum x. So in this sum x, what we will going to do, so it is telling me how many arguments we have to write. How many arguments are there?
2.
Two arguments are there. What is the first argument?
Table.
Table is the first argument. So what we have to write here? We have to write the table name because SumX will need table as a first argument. So what is my table?
Fact sales.
Fact sales. So I will write here fact sales. Now after writing your table name, what you have to write here? Comma. Here you can see comma, right? After table.
Yes.
Yes.
So I will going to write comma. Now what it is expecting?
Expression.
Now tell me what is my expression?
Mm,
Quantity into rate, right?
yes.
Yes.
So this is my expression, quantity into rate. Now this formula is completed. This DAX is completed. Okay.
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 Now I will going to save this particular measure. Now this measure is saved. If you can see in the right hand side, this particular sales amount new measure is saved, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
So till now this measure is saved, but it has not calculated the value. Why it has not calculated the value till now?
Because the data is not.
This has not calculated the value because measure will going to calculate the result when we will going to add this particular measure here. At the time, whenever we will going to add this particular measure here, at that time only it will going to calculate. So now I will going to add this particular measure here.
Okay.
Now, so just now I have added, right? So it has calculated just now itself.
Yes.
So what I mean to say is, whenever you will going to add that particular measure into your report, at that time itself, it will going to calculate the value. Okay.
Okay, but the
Okay.
data will store in the Power BI source itself, right? The
No,
file
no,
itself.
no. It will not going to store. Okay. It will not going to store anywhere. Once this particular measure I will going to remove, now it will not be anywhere. Okay. it will going to store just for a kind of temporary purpose. Right now it has stored in the memory, okay, just for the temporary purpose only. Once I will remove this particular measure, now nothing it has stored.
Okay.
So whenever you will going to add the measure, at that time only this particular measure will going to calculate on the fly.
Okay.
But
Okay.
in case of calculated column, it is already calculated, okay, it is already calculated, okay,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
it is already done. We are just calling it, it is already calculated. So the performance wise calculated column is better as terms in measure, because the measure will going to calculate at the time whenever we are adding that particular measure into our report. But this calculated column, it is already pre-calculated, right? We are
Yes.
just adding those values, we are not calculating, we are adding.
Yes.
Are you getting now the difference?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So right now we have written this particular sumx. So what is happening? This sumx is creating row context, okay? Because this is a function which is ending with x, and these are the special functions. Which functions are ending with x? Those functions will work under row context. So what will happen? This particular formula, quantity into rate, it is calculated under this particular table. Fact says row by row, okay,
Yes.
and it
Yes.
is
Okay.
calculated this final result, sales amount for every row, and after getting all the values it has added all the values, because what we are using here,
Some X.
Some
sum
Dash.
x. Now see, if I will change this sum x, okay, and I will put here min x. Now tell me, mean means minimum, okay, mean means minimum. So whatever the values I'll get, tell me what values I'll get here.
P.
2000.
Yes.
So here what will happen? Here everything will be same only, okay? Here this will multiply this only. But in the grand total, what it will going to do? It will give you the minimum value. So what is the minimum value here?
35. Minimum value
2000.
2000.
2000. Yes.
So
Yes.
now if I'll save this particular measure, see what will come in the bottom in the grand total. What it is showing in the grand total?
2000. Minimum
And
value.
yeah, 2000 is nothing but the minimum value, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So what it is doing, after calculating this expression, after calculating quantity into rate, so whatever the final result it is there, in this result it is trying to find the minimum value, okay, that's why we are using min x.
Okay.
Now if I want to find the maximum value, what is the maximum value here?
35,000.
35,000. So directly what we can use here, max x. And now if I hit enter, so what will happen? In the bottom you are able to get this 35,000, right?
Yes.
So what I'm trying to say, so if you are using min x, max x, sum x, so at this particular data level it will going to calculate this expression, okay, but at the total level, whatever the expression, either you are using min x, then it will going to get the minimum value out of this final calculated values, okay, and it will going to show here. If you will going to put max x, then it will try to get the maximum values from this final output, okay, and it will going to show in the grand total.
Yes.
Now if I'm going to put average x, then tell me what will come.
It will do the average like it will take the higher and lower, I mean the maximum and minimum values of the column and it will divide.
No,
No.
what it will going to do, if you will use average, so how we are calculating average? We are summing all the values, right? So if you will sum all these values, what is the final result you will get?
72,000.
72,000. And how many values are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 72 divided by 5. How much is the value? 72,000 divided by 5. Tell me what will be the value?
Wait.
Tell me fast. 72 divided.
14,400.
Huh?
14,400.
14,400.
14,400. So if I will use this average X, it has to show me the same value in the grand total. Let me save this. How much it is showing?
14,400.
So what will happen if you are using any aggregation function? These all are aggregation function, like sum, mean, max, count, all those things are aggregation function. Okay. So this
Okay.
aggregation function, what it is doing, it is, see what, for example, if I am putting here sum x, then what will happen? This sum x, it will going to work once this one will going to multiply quantity into rate for all the values. Okay. And
Okay.
after calculating this quantity into rate for all the values, it will going to sum all the values, right?
Yes.
And it will going to show in the bottom. The same
Yeah.
thing will happen if you will going to use the mean x. Then what will happen? This particular rate into quantity, it will
Is the
going
same.
to calculate for all the values, and whatever the final values you are getting here, it will try to find the minimum value and it will going to show in the total, right?
Yes. Yes.
So these are the functions, these are the DAX functions which is working under row context. Okay,
Okay.
is it clear, Madhu, Sanjay?
Yes.
Any doubt here?
No, sir.
Sanjay,
No, sir.
पक्का?
Yes, sir.
बाद में डाउट हुआ ना बेटा फिर मेरे को बताना ठीक है? ओके,
नहीं सर,
सो
रो
या
कंटेस्ट को छोड़ के सर ये जो हमारा अभी कॉलम कंटेस्ट का कुछ होगा या सर?
Praveen,
या मधु,
in the measure sales amount new on column, hai na? If
in
we
the
are not,
sales amount new is my measure, it's not a column, it's a measure.
measure,
Yeah,
if we not after calculating, if we not removing from that place, what will happen?
if you will not remove, so nothing will happen, it will going to store here itself. Okay,
Okay.
so see, this is the kind of temporary value. Okay, measure is a kind of temporary value. If you will going to add here, then it will going to calculate and it will going to show here. Once you
Yeah.
will remove this particular measure, it will not be there anymore. Okay, because
Yeah.
measure will going to calculate on the fly. Whenever you will going to add that particular measure in the report area in any of the visual, at that time itself, instantly it will going to calculate. But at the time when you are creating a calculate column, then that particular calculated column, it will going to store the data, the whatever the final result is there. Okay,
Okay.
is it clear?
Yes. Yes.
Any doubt here, anyone?
No.
No.
Can we move on?
Yes.
Yeah.
If you will not do practice, definitely I'm telling you, you will going to face a lot of issues. Okay, so it's a request to everyone, do practice whatever I'm telling. Okay,
Okay.
if you will try to do by your own, then only you will going to figure lot of issues. Okay, because you won't believe, I have also faced a lot of issues in learning these concepts.
Okay.
Okay.
That's why I'm telling you, definitely you will going to learn like lot of issues while creating a measure. A basic measure also you will not be able to create easily. It is looking very easy, but at the time when you will going to implement, definitely you'll going to face lot of challenges. I'm telling you.
Yes.
Okay.
So try to
Okay.
create your own scenario, as well as like I'll going to share that practice materials I'm having with me. Okay, so I'll going to share everything, but first try to understand these basic things. Okay,
Okay.
Okay.
now as I mentioned here, in this measure, it will going to by default work under which context?
Sorry.
Measure will going to work under which context by default?
Filter context.
Measure
Filter
will
context.
going to work under filter context. Okay, and if you want to create row context in measure, then there are some special functions, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So
Some.
now we have to understand what is filter context. Okay,
Okay.
and see, I'm telling you, if you will not able to understand row context and filter context, you will not be able to understand DAX. Can give you a surety, okay? These are the basics of DAX. If this will not be clear, then you will not be able to understand DAX.
Okay.
Okay. Now I will going to create a new measure, and in this new measure, what I'll going to do, I will try to add all this quantity. Okay.
Okay.
So I will going to write a new measure. Now in this new measure, I want to add total quantity. So what is my name of my measure?
Total quantity.
Total quantity. And I want to add the total value, right?
Yes.
So what I can do, I can use either sum or either sum x. Okay,
Sum
both
x.
will work because I'm telling you sum is also working here in this case. Now if I'll show you, this sum is there, right? So
Yes.
what is the argument it is asking?
Column name.
So what is
Column.
my column name?
Quality. I mean quantity.
Quantity, right? And I will
Yes.
save this. And now I have created a new measure where I have written the DAX sum of quantity, right?
Yes.
Now I will going to use a new visualization, that is the name of card. Okay, I will take this card, and in this card I will add this total quantity. Okay,
Okay.
Okay.
now it is showing me 15, and this 15 is nothing but 10 plus 11 10 plus 1 11, 11 plus 2 13, and 13 plus 1 14, and 1 15, right? It is showing correctly, right?
Yes.
Now here if you can see, in this particular sum function, what is the if you let me remove this, in sum function, what is the like argument? It is only one argument, column name, right?
Yes.
But here you are this sales amount. If you want to calculate the sales amount, how many columns you will need
Sorry. For
for
sales
Two
amount,
columns.
we need
calculating
two.
the sales
We need
amount?
two.
How many columns you will need?
Two
Two
columns.
column.
Two columns, right? So
Yes.
tell me, right now in sum we are able to see only one column here, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So is it possible to calculate rate into quantity here?
No.
No.
So the difference is, if you are trying to calculate the expression part, then using sum we can't create the expression part. Okay,
Yes.
you have to go with sum x. But if you have to sum only the values of a single column, only a single column, then you can use sum.
Okay.
Okay.
Are you getting what is the
Yes.
use? In sum we can pass only a single column, and
Yeah.
we will get the sum of all the values in that particular column only. Okay,
Yes.
Yes.
but in sum x we can write the expression, and that particular expression can we evaluate, and whatever the final output is there, it will going to add all those values as an output. Okay,
Okay.
Oh,
because this is the very important interview question. What is the difference between sum and sum x? Okay,
Okay.
okay.
so what is the difference? In sum, how many argument we are having?
One
One
What is the argument?
column.
column. One
Column name. So in
column.
sum we can pass only a single argument, that is column, and it will going to add all the values of that particular column. Okay, and
Okay.
in
Yes.
sum x what are the arguments?
Column name and
Table comma expression, right?
table comma expression. Yes.
So how many arguments are there?
Two.
Two arguments.
So the first difference is, in sum we are having one argument, in sum
Yeah.
x we are having two argument, right?
Yes.
Yes.
This is the first difference. After that, the second difference is, sum will going to add all the values of a column only. Okay,
Okay.
Okay.
sum x can do all the values of a particular column, as well as it can work on the expression as well. Okay, like you
Okay.
can multiply quantity into rate, you can divide, you can do any kind of expression. Okay, what you want to calculate, that is possible under sum x, but it is not possible in sum.
Some. Okay.
Now here the sum x is working under row context. Okay,
Yes.
Yes.
But sum is not working under row context. Sum is working under filter context.
Yes.
Okay.
Now we will going to explain you what is filter context, but just for your information, SumX is working under row context, sum is working under filter context. Okay.
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 So what will happen if you are using a SumX? So tell me which one is better in terms of performance, sum or SumX?
SumX.
Why SumX? SumX is working under row context. So what will happen? SumX will going to iterate row by row, right? For calculating the formula.
Yes.
Yes.
So what will happen? The performance will be slow, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because you will going to go one by one. If 1 million rows are there, you have to go one by one. So it will be
Yeah.
slow, right?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
So performance wise, SumX is slower than sum. Always remember, performance wise, where there is X, okay, all these X functions, all are slow,
Okay.
because all these functions are working under row context. And if a function will go and it will work under row context, definitely it will be always slow,
Okay.
Okay.
because it has to work row by row. Okay,
Yeah.
is it clear till here?
Yes.
Yes.
Now we're going to understand why we are calling it as a filter context. Okay,
Okay.
so now we have to understand why it is calling as a filter. Right now we have created this total quantity, right?
Yeah.
Let me take this total quantity into new let me take the here itself, let me, what I did, let me put here quantity. So is it clear till here? Any doubt here?
No.
No.
Okay, so now what I'm going to do, I will create a new table. Okay, let me put a new table here, and in this new table I have created a new table, and in this new table what I'm going to do, I will add the quantity measure. So where is my measure? Total quantity. How much it is showing?
15.
15. Let me increase the size. And now this, I'll going to give you the main concept of filter context. Try to understand, okay? If you are not understanding, let me know. Let me increase the size, and then we will try to understand what is filter context. I took almost 2 years to understand this concepts. I'm telling you, more than 2 years I took. I was not able to figure out what is row context and what is filter context.
Okay.
That's why I'm telling you it's a very difficult thing, but I will tell you very easily. So
Okay.
try to focus, okay? Now, what is happening? This total quantity is giving me 15 as a total value, right?
Yes.
And 15 is nothing but the sum of all this quantity, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, in this particular visual, I will going to add a customer name. Okay, for example, from dimension customer, I will going to add this customer name in this particular visual. I'll select this visual, and in this visual, I'll going to add customer name. Now, tell me what happened after adding customer name. What happened?
Directly
Uh,
the sum of
it will showing.
directly showing the sum of total quantity below.
So previously what happened, I'll tell you. Previously what happened, it was showing only 15, right?
Yes.
Yes.
And after adding this particular customer name, this particular 15, it got split up into 10, 3 and 2, right?
Yes.
Yes.
And this 10, 3 and 2 is nothing but this particular Pooja has bought 10 quantity, Raj has bought 3 quantity, and Sumit has bought 2 quantity, right?
Yes.
So because of this particular customer name column, this particular measure, it got split up into this many values, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So this is filter context for this particular measure. And it is
Okay.
responsible for splitting the value, for filtering the value based on the values of this particular column. And now my measure got split up into multiple values, right?
Yes.
So this particular column is creating the filter context for this particular measure. Because of that only, my measure is trying to get filtered for this customer name. Okay. If I will remove this particular filter context, which is coming from customer name, see what will happen. Again, it is showing me 15 only, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Because there is no filter context. Okay. That's why it is showing me 15. If I will add a new column, then what will happen? It will going to create the filter context. This new column, it is trying to create the filter context. Because of the filter context, this particular measure is filtering for each and every customer, right?
Yes.
And it is creating the filter context. Now you are able to see 10, 3 and 2, right?
If we
Yeah.
add the quantity
Now,
of puja,
now
that
let
will-
me add bill number. Okay, I will add bill number here. And I will going to unsummarize. Now unsummarize. Okay. So now if you will try to understand, now 10, 3, 2 has become how much?
15.
10, 2, 1, 2, right? Now it is not 10, 3, 2. It is 10, 2, 1, 2, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Why? Because now this particular total quantity is again break into two values for Raj, because Raj is a particular customer who has bought two products into two different bill number, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So this total quantity is again split based on the bill number. Okay, based on the bill number. So what is happening? This bill number is again creating the filter context for this total quantity. Are you
Okay.
getting? So now how many columns are creating the filter context for this total quantity?
3.
How come 3? There are 2 columns, right? Customer name and bill number.
Quantity will not comes under this.
See, quantity is a
Yeah.
measure, and this measure is getting affected because of the filter
Okay.
context coming from customer name and bill number.
Okay. Okay.
And that's why it is trying to get split up into multiple values because of the filter context.
Yeah. Okay. 2 columns.
Yeah, 2 columns are creating the filter context. Okay. Now what I'm going to do, I will take a slicer. Okay. I will take a slicer, and in this slicer, I will going to select the customer name. Now there are 3 customers, Pooja, Raj and Sumit, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Now if I will select here Sumit, now what is the total quantity?
2.
2.
2. What happened? This particular slicer is again creating the filter context. Because of that, what happened? This particular measure is again getting filtered, right?
Yes.
So what is happening? The columns which are trying to filter this particular measure all are creating filter context, as well as this particular slicer is creating filter context only for Sumit. That's why this particular measure is also showing 2. Okay. So
Okay.
now how many things are involved in creating filter context? How many things are involved in creating filter context now?
Customer name and bill number.
Now there is a slicer, there is a column customer name, there is a slicer customer name, and the bill number. So these 3 are responsible for creating the filter context for this particular total quantity. Okay.
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 And because of that only, this particular total quantity measure is getting filtered.
Okay.
Are you getting?
Yes. Yes.
So because of the selection only, this quantity value is getting changed, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And if I'll remove this Sumit selection, it is again showing me 15. So this particular slicer is affecting the value of this total quantity, right? So it is
Yes.
creating the filter context, as well as this particular, let me select Raj. So now for Raj, this 3 is again getting split up into 2 values, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Why it has created this particular 2 values? Because of the filter context which is coming from customer name and bill number. Okay.
Yes.
That's why this particular column and this particular slicer all are creating the filter context. Because of that, you are able to see this particular values for the total quantity measure. Okay. If this particular slicer selection will not be there, then you are able to see all the values, right? And this
Yes.
particular measure, now it is getting the filter context only from the 2 different column only. Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Is it clear, the filter context?
Yeah.
Yes.
Any doubt, Sanjay?
No, sir.
Is it clear what is filter context, what is row context?
Yes,
Any
sir.
doubt here? Tell me any doubt, anything. What about you, Akhil? Madhu?
No, no, no.
It is clear, right?
Yeah, I just want the perfect definition of filter context. That's
See, filter context is nothing. Filter context is a context which is trying to create, like filter the data of the measure, okay?
okay.
So these are the data which is trying to filter the data based on that particular value. So it is, this measure is trying to show the data for only customer name Pooja, right? What is the quantity for Pooja? 10. So it is trying to show you the value based on the customer and bill number. So this particular customer and bill number, it is, so in Excel, this particular we saw in our previous example, this particular values are having an address, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So here in this particular visual, are you having any address? You don't have address, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
this particular customer name and bill number, it is like a address, okay? Because of this address only, this particular measure is trying to get filtered, and this address is nothing but the filter context, which is trying to filter the value based on the address, okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Now is it clear?
So
Yes.
it's act as a slicer, if I am not wrong.
Yeah, it's like act like a slicer only, correct? It's act like a slicer. But it is not a slicer. It is trying to filter the value, but it is not a slicer, but it acts like a slicer to filter the data based on the value.
Oh.
Okay.
That's why the name itself is filter context, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So it will try to filter the data based on the value.
Okay.
Okay.
Is it clear now?
Yes.
Any doubt here?
No.
Everyone clear?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so I'll going to continue from tomorrow. Like, because you will going to like, definitely you're going to have lot of questions. So try to cover this video whatever I'll have told you today, and we'll going to connect from tomorrow. Okay? Because if
Sure.
I'll say more and more things, you will going to confused. Okay?
Okay.
And it's the starting of the DAX. Okay, that's why I'll not give you more pressure. So try to go through the same video so you will have more understanding. Okay,
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
and we'll going to continue from tomorrow at the same time. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay,
Sure.
any
Okay.
doubt?
No.
So please try to go through the video. I'll upload the video like in half an hour.